Like the soccer gods were like, you know what? It's not a PK. And so they gave Italy the chance to stay in the match and they just didn't take advantage of it.
Very interesting that the soccer gods, like, can have your back, but you've gotta, like, do the work. They're not gonna, like, blow the ball over the goal. They're just
Mm-mm.
gonna, like, give you a chance, and you can only get it if you're ready.
They can be fickle like that.
Soccer gods, I don't know. I don't know about you guys. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to our final Euros check-in pod. It is just 2 days before the final. This tournament has been crazy, and so I am really happy to have Becky Sauerbrunn back with me to talk through everything. Becky, thank you for being here.
Sam, always a pleasure to be here talking footy with a friend.
I'm always relieved when it's you in the other little box next to me. Becky and I were last together on a live reaction show right after the first semifinal between England and Italy on Tuesday. Then I reacted to the second semifinal on Wednesday night with Kling. So if you missed either of those games or either of those reaction shows, shame on you. You're in the right place because Becky and I are going to cover both of them again right now and preview the final that's coming up on Sunday between Spain and England. Becky, I feel like we did it. This tournament's been crazy after the surprises of the group stage, multiple quarterfinals that went to PKs, and both semifinal games that went all the way into extra time. We're here, arrived at the final for this year's Euros, Spain versus England, a rematch of the 2023 Women's World Cup. If I had told you on day one of this tournament that Spain versus England was going to be the final, would you have been surprised?
No, I wouldn't have been that surprised. I think there could have been several teams that I wouldn't have been surprised made it to the final. I think Sweden, Germany, France, England, Spain, those were all favorites. Now, if Italy had made
Mm.
it in, yes, I would have been very surprised, but very pleasantly so because it's always awesome, I think, when there's a surprise team that gets thrown into the mix.
I know Italy came very close.
So close.
What about if I told you after England's opening game, where they lost to France 2-0, that they'd make it to the final? Would you have been surprised then?
Yeah, I would have been a bit more surprised because they just did not look like the normal England that we've seen in the last few years. But the improvement from that first to second game against the Dutch and then looking even more dominant in the Wales game, I feel like they are battle hardened through the quarters and the semis. I mean, they've had a roller coaster of a tournament, but yeah, if you had asked me after that first game, I would have been like, is it? I
I
don't
don't
know.
know. I know. So I guess sometimes you do just have to grow into the tournament. We're going to talk through England's whole journey. You and I actually already went live and reacted to England's semifinal game against Italy, but I feel like our reaction was like very much in the heat of the moment. You know, we're kind of like planning out what we want to talk about as the game is going on, and then we get right into it, and we're kind of like, oh my God, do you remember what happened? So I feel like now it's been a few days. We've had some time to reflect, maybe cool off a little bit because it was a pretty contentious game. Italy started off strong. Beautiful goal from Barbara Bonanzera in the 33rd minute. So England spent the majority of the game chasing until they finally found an equalizer in the 96th minute. That sent us into extra time. These two teams stayed deadlocked until the 119th minute when a foul in the box drew a very controversial penalty kick. Chloe Kelly stepped up to take the PK, which was blocked, but then she reached the rebound first and scored. And even just talking about this like final play of this game, like it's getting me a little bit nervous. After this game ended, Becky, you told me that your big feeling was heartbreak for this Italian team. So 2 days later, what are you feeling about Italy now?
Yeah, I'm still heartbroken, to be perfectly honest. And then with Germany losing after having their own masterclass of a defensive performance, I'm just like sad Becky today.
Yeah, though both of those teams did have incredible defensive efforts, and I do want to give Italy a ton of credit for their performance this tournament. I think we were all so inspired by their fight, and they made such a strong statement about the future of their squad. But they are out, and merciless here. We're gonna move on. We're gonna talk about England. I want to start by talking about 19-year-old Michelle Agyemang, who is getting all this praise, this real like hero treatment, as she should. She not only saved England with that 96th minute equalizer in the semifinal, she also scored a last minute goal against Sweden to even get them to the semifinal. Michelle is an Arsenal player. She grew up an Arsenal fan, Becky, actually, which I thought you'd find very cool.
Oh, I love that.
She was out on loan at Brighton last year. She scored 3 goals in 17 appearances. But for a lot of people, she was an unknown factor, like kind of an unknown name coming into this tournament on the international stage. This Italy game was only her fourth ever senior cap for the Lionesses. But I feel like with players like this, your teammates know before the rest of the world knows what a star you are. Her captain, Leah Williamson, called her, quote, inevitable. Georgia Stanway said to us, she brings something completely different to the team. And then Coach Serena Wiegman said in the media, she has something special, all about Michelle Agyemang. Becky, in the very limited minutes we've watched her play as a Lioness, what have you seen from Michelle that gives you nightmares as a defender?
I have played against and with forwards that have all the technical and physical capabilities to be great, and they're expected to be great, but they just don't have that X factor. And it's that one intangible, hard to pinpoint thing that just makes them excellent, that makes them so hard to defend. And it's that thing that if I lose them for 1 second, they're probably gonna score a goal, and Michelle Agyemang seems to have that X factor. For this to be her 4th cap and for her to have this impact on a world-class team, on a world stage, with the limited amount of minutes that she's played, she has to have an X factor.
I know. It's that, like, ability to just score. Like, sometimes it's, like, not even necessarily tactical or technical. The X factor is just, like, the ball goes in the net. Michelle Edgemang is technical, is tactical, but you're right to point out that sometimes it's, like, this intangible quality where you're just like, "She's gonna score," and I just, like, know she's gonna score. 4 years ago, Michelle was actually a ball girl at a Lionesses game, and she got asked about that moment, and just kind of reflecting on where she is now, and she said, I was just a kid throwing the ball to these girls. To do this at this level is more than I could have wished for. Most of these girls I've not known for more than 2 months. To see them celebrate with me, it'll live in my heart forever. It's so cool to hear about this because you can just picture Michelle Agyemang a couple of years ago idolizing and looking up to these women who won the last Euros, made the final of the last World Cup. She's watching from afar. Now she's friends with them. Now they're cheering for her as she scores game tying goals, saving the team. I feel like knowing that Michelle is able to handle these really pressure filled moments as such a young player, and then to imagine that she's literally just in chapter one of her professional career, it's so, so cool, and I cannot wait to see her play in the final. Becky, do you think there's any chance she starts the final?
Oh, I mean, if she does start the final, it would go against the Serena Vegman method, which is basically stick to your starting 11 as much as possible and then wait until we're all having heart palpitations to actually sub her on and Chloe Kelly and just let them do their thing, which is usually scoring a goal or assisting a goal or scoring the game-winning PK. So yeah, I would be very surprised. I mean, would I love to see it? Absolutely. I just think Serena Vegman is going to stick to what got her to the final.
I know, by the skin of her teeth, but yeah, it is working, so who's to say? You mentioned Chloe Kelly, obviously another English player who's gotten some really great press after the win, deservedly so. Chloe scored that 119th minute goal in the semifinal against Italy. Chloe's a legendary penalty kick taker, and you can just tell that she, like, lives for these moments. I read that it was between her and Alex Greenwood to take the kick, and when her and Alex kind of got together to, like, discuss who was gonna take it, Alex was like, "How are you feeling?" And Chloe just goes, "I'm confident." And I'm just like, "Okay, Chloe, you got it." Her kick here was actually stopped by the Italian goalkeeper Giuliani, but I think that confidence allowed Chloe to just keep going. She calmly ran up to finish the rebound. I think that there has been some reaction that the Italian goalkeeper should be catching this ball, but I'm kind of like, people are forgetting that Chloe has one of the hardest shots in all of soccer, not women's soccer, men's too. Remember that stat in 2023? Chloe Kelly took a PK that was hit harder than every single goal in the men's Premier League that season.
I love that stat. You know, she has that thing where she kinda, like, lifts her knee and then kind
Mhm.
of jumps into that first step, and I wonder if that's how she, like, starts gathering a lot of momentum. I think to say the goalkeeper should've caught the ball is unfair. I think they're already dealing with so much and they're at such a disadvantage. So just even blocking the first shot, I think is so amazing. And what like if anyone should be at fault, it should be the rest of the Italian team
Yeah.
who, as you know, Sammy, when we talk about set pieces, a PK, an attacking or a defensive PK, we focus on that just as much as like an attacking corner kick or a defensive corner kick because we can set up in a way that should there be a rebound, we can be the first to it. And I think in that moment, the English team just wanted it more.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Like, and I hate to criticize Italy in that way because they did put out such a great defensive performance, but you have to get to that rebound first. You have to trust that your goalkeeper is going to like make that parry. And I do think that Ella Toon was actually right next to Chloe Kelly. So even if Chloe hadn't gotten to it, Ella Toon would have.
Yeah.
Um, which is tough to know that it wasn't even Chloe versus an Italian defender. It was her own teammate would have scored it too. I want to pause on Chloe Kelly for just a second because seeing her have this impact in this tournament is so incredible. Because she just had to fight to make this roster about 6 months ago. Serena actually said she wasn't sure Chloe would make this squad. Chloe wasn't getting minutes at Man City for reasons none of us really understood at the time. I remember continuing throughout last fall to be like, where's Chloe Kelly? Why is she not playing for Man City? Chloe kind of had to take her career into her own hands. She fought to be loaned to a club that would give her more minutes and then finds herself at Arsenal winning Champions League a few months later. Really had to fight and earn her way into contention for this Euro squad by like getting those minutes with her club team. Becky, with a World Cup coming up in less than 2 years now, are there any lessons that you would take from Chloe's story this year that you hope other players can, kind of like absorb from what's happened?
You are your own best advocate, and no one is going to care about your career more than you. And I think as our sport becomes more professional and there's more money involved, some organizations will see players as assets and less like humans. And I think it can put players in really difficult situations where they feel like their options are limited. And so many players that I've spoken to who are in these types of situations don't want to kick up a fuss because they want to be a like quote unquote good teammate or
Yeah.
they just don't like confrontation. And I totally get those concerns, but I want players to know that they have leverage if they choose to use it. And whether it's through their agents or through their players associations or through the media, like Chloe Kelly did, there are ways to apply pressure. And at the end of the day, I really think your fellow players just want you to be happy and thriving and in good environments and feel empowered. And so I guess at the end of the day, I'm like, yeah, kick up that fuss.
I know. I totally agree. And I'm also like, Chloe has teammates on England too that need her now. And it's like by getting herself into a better situation, now her England teammates are like, oh my God, thank God Chloe's here because we may have lost without her. What Chloe did and how she was able to like find herself in a better situation is so admirable and must have been so difficult for her to go through at the time, but obviously now everybody in England is like, thank God she did it because now she like has our back and she's here saving us. A lot of praise for the person who took the PK and ended up scoring the goal, but let's revisit the PK itself. Becky, again, we reacted immediately after the game. Tempers were flying.
Yeah.
You felt very strongly that it should not have been given. If anybody didn't see in the 116th minute, everybody's emotions were at their absolute highest. We're seconds away from penalty kicks. There was some contact in the box between Italy's Emma Severini and England's Beth Mead. Beth Mead went down, and the ref immediately pointed to the spot. Did not really have any second guesses about it. But this call was immediately controversial. A lot of people thought that the ref shouldn't have made this call this late in the game, including you, Becky. So I want to know a few days later, do you stand by your opinion?
I do stand by it on further review. I think the ref lets the play go on. And if VAR reviews the play and deems it worthy of an additional look, then we go from there. And yeah, the foul happens in front of the ref, but I don't think she gets to see all the angles. Obviously, she doesn't get to see all the angles. So she doesn't really get to see them tussling throughout the play, how Beth Mead maybe wrapped up Severini to make the play look even worse. And I've had that done to me. Alex Morgan was like a magician at doing this, where she would take my arm and just wrap it around her body and pull us both down. And it would absolutely look like I had fouled her. So it's diabolical, but it's effective. And it definitely happens in the game.
Okay, fair enough. I feel like I'm losing this battle. Like it's 2 against 1. You and Kling are on one side, the defender side saying it's not a foul, it's not a PK. I am just still saying it's like if Beth Mead, if Alex Morgan, if the forwards, midfielders, whoever, if they are being like manipulative of the defender has to deal with it and like be manipulative back and like not get herself in this situation. This it is a huge call and it's a huge decision, but it's a foul. I don't think to me it doesn't matter what time of the game it is. It doesn't matter what the occasion is. If you foul someone in the box, which I think this was a foul, I'm going rules are rules. And I hate to do this, but it's like I think back to us losing the 2021 Olympics on a PK call where that did go to VAR. It was unclear to me, but that player was never going to score from that position. And if that's a PK, then this is a PK. Like that occasion was big. It was nearing the end of the game. If it's a foul in the box, you have to call it. That's the rules. And so I do hear the point about letting VAR be the one to make the decision, but I think VAR would have had no choice. It would have been a foul.
Devil's advocate, the foul in the Olympics occurred because both players were actively going after the ball at the same time. And you yourself said that neither player in the semifinal play were getting to that ball. So I don't know, does that make any difference to you?
No, it's a foul.
Also, you saying a defender has to deal with a forward being manipulative and fouling them. How does that even work? I feel like that's a foul on the attacker then.
I think this was not a foul on the attacker, in my opinion. I think what you're saying about like the gamesmanship and the manipulation between a forward and a defender, somebody wrapping their arm around you and pulling you down, I think a defender has to like respond to the gray areas of the game and not be in that position, not be on the wrong side of Beth Mead as she's going to make her run in the box. She needs to just respond to what's going on. She can't get caught pulling her down. She can't get put in that situation at that point in the game.
I don't think we're ever gonna agree on this.
I don't think we are either. I love that we disagree. I actually think it, makes for a better podcast, Becky. I hope that you don't like me less, but I'm going to have to deal with it because this has been a really controversial moment and it actually feels like there's nobody that I've talked to about this that's on the fence. All of the comments that I've seen have either been like, "Are you dumb? This is not a PK," or literally, "Are you dumb? This is clearly a PK." Like it's just stumping everybody.
This feels like when I fouled, in quotes, Ellen White in the 2019 semifinal against England,
Uh-huh.
and I am very realistic about when I foul people. I do
Mhm.
not think that I fouled Ellen White on that play. I don't know if you remember it.
Becky, I'd have to watch it back, and I would probably never not have your back. So, I don't know if we're gonna be able to have as honest of a conversation about that one.
We'll have to revisit.
We'll revisit it on a future episode,
Okay.
everybody. We also spoke in that live reaction show about the idea of this possible new rule of not allowing the penalty kick taker to get the rebound, like, live in game. Like, so basically penalty kicks would become like that's the whole play is like the one kick just like they are after the game. I think this is like kind of a rule change that's been proposed and we're kind of hearing about it through the rumor mill as a possibility. Becky, how do you feel about that rule?
I don't know how I feel about that rule. I think my gut reaction is like I don't like it. And like I mentioned earlier, like teams set up for PKs very strategically to prevent the PK taker and other players from getting to the rebound. So I think England just set up better and wanted it more in that moment and they got rewarded. And I would just like to say, Sammy, to
You're
to,
wrong.
to go back to the argument if it was a PK or not. If it was, I mean, obviously it was a PK. It was called a PK. I didn't It's not a PK, but it was called it. The fact that
Mhm.
Chloe I'm sorry, I cannot let this go. The fact that Chloe Kelly missed initially just makes me think of ball don't lie. Like the soccer gods were like, "You know what? It's not a PK." And so they gave Italy the chance to stay in the match and they just didn't take advantage of it.
Very interesting that the soccer gods like can have your back, but you've got to like do the work.
Oh, absolutely.
Like they're not going to do it for you. They're not going to like blow the ball over the goal. They're just going
Mm-mm.
to like give you a chance and you can only get it if you're ready.
They can be fickle like that.
Soccer gods, I don't know. I don't know about you guys. I really don't. I'm really not
Don't
sure.
test them.
Yeah, I get suddenly I'm like, I don't know, so the soccer gods are smiting me away from soccer, and I'm like, "Hey, I'm sorry I doubted you." Becky, you did have one other big statement on that live stream, and that and now I'm just being petty, was that you thought Germany was gonna win yesterday's game against Spain, which they did not do.
Mhm.
This was also a heartbreaker, another extra time game that saw both sides fight really hard. And Germany, who were without so many players due to injury, suspensions, managed to stay in it until the 113th minute when Aitana Bonmatí found this unreal goal and sent Spain onto the final. The hardest part about this loss for Germany was seeing Anne-Catherine Berger stand on her head all game and then get scored on near post, which just like, I'm not even a defender or a goalkeeper. And I'm just like, oh, I feel so bad that that happened. We talked about this in depth with our former teammate and our friend Megan Klingenberg right after the show. Becky, talk to me just in general about the roller coaster of emotions that you went on during this game.
So I started the game still hungover from the Italian loss. Like it was still like this cloud just hovering over me. And I had a lot of hope for Germany, even though one of my favorite players, Nuskin, the central midfielder, was suspended from yellow card accumulation. Was really bummed about that. And as the game went on, and I'm watching Germany defend brilliantly, my hangover just started to disappear. And my hope that good defending would once again reign over the soccer landscape started to
Oh,
soar.
I thought you were gonna say good defending cures hangovers, and I was like, I like need that recipe.
Yeah. I'll send it to you. But then that freaking goal went in, and I was so sad all over again. Anne Katzenberger had an amazing game.
Yeah.
Like, no doubt about it. She kept the Germans in that match. And for that type of goal to go in at that angle, in that way, at that time was just so cruel.
I know. I want to actually talk in detail about the goal. I'm like so desperate to get your opinion because Kling shared some really good insight about it. But let's stick with Germany first. Not only were they facing Spain here, one of the best attacking teams in the world, they were facing Spain without some of their best defenders. They lost their captain, Julie Gavin, in the first game of this tournament. They lost Katrine Hendrick due to her own egregious hair pull in the quarterfinals. Yet, I thought defensively, Germany looked so disciplined. Spain was able to create a lot of chances, but Germany generally did a really good job staying compact. They had a lot of numbers behind the ball. They did great 1v1 defending. It was actually a really impressive defensive performance for Germany.
Yeah, are we surprised at all? After their quarterfinal performance against France, like clearly this team knows how to defend. Like every single player on that field, on that roster knows how to defend.
Yeah, it was really disciplined, structured, organized. The game was deadlocked for so long. For Germany's attack, winger Clara Buhl was really involved. She created a few chances for herself. For Spain, every time a Spanish player got a shot off, Gotham goalkeeper Anne Katrin Berger was there to save it. She ended the game with 8 saves. And I want to focus in on Anne a little bit here. She's had a really fascinating tournament. There were definitely some issues in the group stage. We can't forget that Germany let up 4 goals against Sweden in the group stage. But time and time again, Anne has come up big for Germany, including and especially during their PK shootout against France, where she saved 2 and made her own kick.
Man. Yeah, I love that she worked through some of the early stage wobbles she had to become maybe Germany's MVP of the tournament, maybe even one of the tournament's
Yeah.
MVPs. Like the mental fortitude to get over those mistakes and then to flourish and become so critical to your team's success. That's like really inspirational.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes we forget soccer is a game full of mistakes. It's basically just you make a mistake and how does the next person react to the mistake? And when you're a keeper or defender, those mistakes just get so highlighted because it usually ends up in another team getting a chance or scoring a goal. But at all times, people are messing up. So, with the added public attention, Anne was able to overcome any doubts she or anyone had and proved them all wrong. And I just think that is so baller.
Yeah, Anna is such a baller. We're like so lucky that she plays in the NWSL and we get to watch her all the time. I was a little surprised. I felt like Spain's usual chance and goal generators maybe weren't quite clinical enough. Mariona Caldente and Claudia Pina, who just won the Golden Boot with Barcelona for the Champions League, they just didn't have like their normal fire that I expected them to have. Spain created a lot of chances for their forwards. Esther herself had several really close chances, but again, Anne just kind of kept coming up big. Becky, do you think that Spain's attack was off? Like, what did you make of that?
Yeah, I don't think they were as clinical as we're used to seeing. I also think credit needs to go to Germany's defense and
Yeah.
obviously to goalkeeping. I think tougher angles, more people in the way, having to rush shots, and then at the end of the day, Berger just, like, standing on her head. I think that just you start missing a few shots, and then it's like, "Okay, why is the goal getting smaller? Why is Ann-Katrin Berger getting bigger?" I think it just kinda steamrolls a little bit.
For sure. I actually am really interested. Like, obviously, that's the perspective of Spain's forwards who are like, why can't we score? This is so frustrating. How does it feel when you're a defender and you know you're getting under somebody's skin and you know that you're putting out this great defensive performance? Like, what does that make you feel?
Sam, it's so amazing, and it's, like, one of the best feelings as a defender, especially if they're getting, like, visibly frustrated. It's just, like, if I get that feeling, I try not to, like, show it how much I'm enjoying it, but you just, like, you almost just wanna make it even worse for that forward. It is, like, such a lovely feeling.
Oh, man. That's the closest I've ever seen you to like gloating.
I know, but it's amazing. It's like goal line saving clearances and getting underneath the forward skin. Those things are, like, equally awesome.
Wow, that's incredible. So as this game went on and on, it stayed 0-0. Spain was able to bring on attacking players like Salma Parayuelo and Athena de Castillo. Becky, can you talk a little bit about, like, again, from the defensive perspective, you're working so hard, you're kind of gloating, you're feeling really great, you're getting under people's skin, but then some of the best players in the world are subbing into the game and you're going to have to try to defend them now.
Yeah, it's how I always imagine on the US national team if you're playing against us, you, like, look over to the halfway line and Kristen Press or
Yeah, it's
Lynn
like
Biondolo is getting subbed into the game, and you're just kind
shoot.
of like, "Shoot, come on." And it's tough because you get used to playing against the forward, how they're playing, how their touches are, and then all of a sudden you're bringing on another attacker and you don't know if the profile is going to be the same or different, and so like you're having to change how you're defending and adapting to the game now, and so it's like a lot of added mental pressure, and then also like you're dealing with fresh legs.
Yeah, I think even, like, you don't know what message they're coming onto the field with. Like, if they're subbing in a different style forward, maybe they've been told to stretch the field longer. Maybe they've been told to check back more, or to focus on playing out wide. And as a defender, you have to, like, now adjust to what could be a new game plan that this player came onto the field with more information. Depth in tournaments like this is so, so important. And it actually feels like the only other team in this tournament with a bench as deep, if not deeper than Spain, is England. This is like one of those advantages that the US women's national team also has when we play. We talk about it a lot about like the toll that games and tournaments can take on a team and how important it is to have players who can come in and affect the game. But Becky, I feel like there are maybe even some more unexpected advantages that having a deep bench offers.
Deep benches make for better training environments. And I think when you don't feel the pressure of your teammates pushing for your spot, it takes a really special player not to feel some sort of complacency or some sort of comfort knowing that their position is safe no matter what should happen. Like if their form should dip or they make mistakes, like they're okay. So I think having that constant competition, that constant need to train and play well, I think that fosters a resiliency and mentality that carries over into games.
I also think, and I know I literally say this all the time, it creates like such a respect between you and your teammates. Yes, at all times there is competitiveness, but like I respect my fellow midfielders so much because I know they're pushing for my spot, because they're making me better in training every day. And I just think that what grows in that respect is this like trust that your teammate. I always talk about the moment in 2019. Lindsay and I kind of were sharing that role. And in the moment, I was like, yeah, Lindsay's got it. Like I trust Lindsay as much as myself. We've both done all of the work to get here. Of course she's got it.
Mhm.
And of course, every single day leading up to that moment, I was like, I need to play over Lindsay. Like, I want it so bad. But when it comes down to winning the tournament or not winning the tournament, you're like, there's nobody that you respect more or trust more than the player that's pushing you for your spot and making you better every day. So I think that the depth for these teams in this Euros, the two teams with the most depth like probably are in the final, and I think that that's like really telling even when we start to think about 2027 for our US women's national team. As we're developing all of this depth now, that's going to make us so unstoppable in tournament play. So we're deep into extra time when the game winning goal, the only one of this whole game, comes from Aitana Bonmatí. Even I felt, Becky, as everybody else started to, like, look a little bit tired, to get a little bit frustrated, Aitana, that's when she, like, really turns it on. That's when she, like, gets more tactically aware. Her mental and physical fitness feels especially impressive right now because she began this tournament, like, just after recovering from viral meningitis that she was hospitalized for. That's, like, a really scary sickness, and she was really sick. The goal she scored here in the semifinal was absolute magic. She patiently stayed on the back line in between two defenders. Del Castillo played her a ball that she could have received back to goal. She could have turned with it at her feet, but instead, she recognized that the space was completely open behind her and she just lets the ball run through, turning to run onto it. There's now a German defender trailing because nobody expected her to just like dummy it and let it keep going. Just as Germany's, like, organizing their box, you can see Ann-Katrin Berger, like, pointing to organize her defenders. We're all expecting Aitana to maybe, like, cross it from end line to cut it back. She shoots, and it goes in near post, and it goes right by Ann-Katrin Berger, who has been unstoppable all game.
I wondered for a hot second if that near post shot was intentional. And I texted Kling and she was like, without a doubt, it was intentional. And I was like, yeah, you know what? It's Aitana Bonmatí. Of course it was intentional. And it really was the only thing that she could do in that moment because the German defender was recovering. And if Bonmatí had tried to cut the ball back for a cross, I really think the German defender would have blocked it. So that almost makes it like even more tough of a goal to let in because that really was the only option available to her at the time.
She did an interview after the game saying that this was her plan after the team studied Ann-Katrin Berger's game footage. It's like she was able to call upon that preparation even at the height of physical exhaustion 113 minutes into the game. Aitana Bonmatí is thinking, "Oh yeah, we scouted this. I should shoot it near post." It's kind of crazy that she was able to do that. Kling was telling me, and I do kind of like vaguely remember this from like my few defensive reps in, especially in small sided. I remember this, Becky, how Kling sometimes would have this relationship with her goalkeeper where she knew it was just her job to prevent the cutback, and she would actually allow a predictable near post shot to come in, knowing that her goalkeeper was ready for that. What could Germany have done? Do you think that Anne and her defender had that understanding and Anne just, like, made a mistake?
I don't know if they have that understanding. What Kling's talking about takes like a very deep level of understanding and chemistry between a back line and their goalkeeper. And I'm not saying that's not possible. It absolutely is possible. I just think that Berger was prepping for a cross. And you see, like you said, she was trying to organize. She's pointing, saying, pick up these players. And I think in the play, that near post just opened up a little bit more than she usually would allow it to.
I think that makes sense, and I think in my, like, I feel like I'm harping on it, but I just, like, love Anne so much that I, like, want there to be some other reason, and you know what? The other reason is just that Aitana is so incredibly good, and she's a player that England is gonna have to be really wary of in the final. This was Aitana's first goal of this tournament, but I think, again, she's just the type of player who can do whatever she wants at any time. Becky, is there anything else you think England may have seen in this game between Spain and Germany that they should learn from ahead of the final on Sunday?
I think Kling talked about it a little bit in its transition. And I think if England were to win the ball back and if they can attack fast and attack with numbers and not recklessly, I think making sure rest defense is set up behind you. But I do think Spain can get caught out when they send so many numbers forward, but it has to be timed well and strategically.
Yeah, Becky, that makes sense. I am kind of feeling like this game, this final coming up on Sunday, the midfield for both teams is going to be really important. Obviously, Spain has three of the best midfielders in the world in Alexia, Aitana, and Patrick Guijarro. Each of them has been special this tournament in their own way. But I feel like England's midfield is going to be really important and critical in stopping them. I think that so far England's midfield has been steady. They've been doing their jobs and stepping up when needed, but they are relying on their front line. They're relying on substitutions a lot. And I think if England's midfield players like Kira Walsh, Georgia Stanway, and Ella Toone can play to their potential and maybe elevate their performances a little bit for this final, their potential is so high. I think we'll see more chances created, more chances converted for England, and just equally like less dominance by Spain through the midfield. What are you thinking is gonna be really important to watch for ahead of the final, Becky?
I've been a little surprised that some of these English midfielders haven't had more of a profound impact on the squad and how they're playing, and I don't know if that is tactics, if that's just you're kind of being overshadowed by an attacking line and attacking substitutions that are just kind of, drawing the eye more than the midfield. But I agree with you that like I want more, especially from Kira Walsh. I mean, I think we've seen her in past tournaments take over games. Like she can do truly amazing things when it comes to possession, when it comes to interrupting play. So yeah, I agree with you. I do want to see more. And I think it is going to be critical in that final for them to find another level, especially when you're going against such a talented Spanish midfield. And I know for me, what I'm looking forward to in the final is just looking at the back lines and not even specific players on the back lines, just like how the units are working together well or how they're not working together well. And I really, as I've always said, Sammy, I think defense wins championships. And I'm looking forward to seeing some more defensive masterclasses in this final.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping for great defense, but not too great because I want there to be some goals. Such a non-defender thing to say. I have been obviously rooting for England. Maybe I'm a little bit biased about the PK, but I really don't think so. I feel like I've been rooting for England, but it has been kind of scary to be rooting for them. Like they've had really up and down moments. I wonder if they've also been like cutting it a little bit too close. Like they keep saving themselves with heroics in the dying seconds of the game. And I want to be like, yep, know what we're doing. It's designed that way. We're pulling out the wins. Why question it? But I'm also like, if they just got a little bit unlucky, they wouldn't be here. And I'm like a big believer that like luck exists when you like put yourself in a good position and then like all you need is like a slight shift for things to just go your way. And I actually feel like England keep putting themselves in like really tough positions where like they could get the tiniest bit unlucky and like have it not go their way. So I'm cheering for them, but I'm a little bit like I think they're capable of like putting themselves in a better situation.
And are you saying a better situation by possibly subbing these players on earlier or starting them?
I don't know if I'm directly saying that. I wouldn't be opposed to Chloe or Michelle starting. I think that they've done great things when they come on the field. But I am like, just don't go down a goal. Just take advantage of the opportunities that you get. Don't go down a goal. Make smart decisions out there and just freaking
Easy peasy.
win the game.
I mean, okay, I think Chloe and Michelle getting the attention, rightfully so. They deserve a lot of credit, but I just think like the game has grown so much, you're gonna give up goals. It's just kind of inevitable now. And I do want to give credit to the entire English squad who are putting in the shifts. They're running their little legs
Dude,
off, they're
yeah.
tiring out defenses, and that allows for players like Chloe and Michelle when they come on to shine. And so, yeah, you need luck on your side always in a major
Yeah.
tournament, but it's also a combination of the players, both the soldiers and the artists.
Well, I think that's such a good point too, because it's not like I think Alessia Russo shouldn't start. Like Alessia Russo has been great this tournament. She's been grinding. She's pushing the back line deep. She's receiving balls alone and holding up play. She's getting in behind. She's getting her head on balls. And you're right to say that I think she played the whole game, the last game with England, but it's like when then other players are subbing on the field, Alessia has done so much of the groundwork that things are opening up for other players. And I'd say the same about Lauren Hemp. Lauren Hemp played the ball into Michelle Agyemang that she scored off of to tie the game up. And so it's not like I'm like the starters aren't doing a good enough job. It's just that for some reason at the end of the game, England is able to get these goals. But you're making a good point that like it's not necessarily that they need to start. It's that the starters maybe are setting them up to have success when they come on the field. So I will take that into consideration as we head towards the final. A lot is being made about this game being a rematch of the 2023 World Cup final, which Spain won. And everybody does this. I know Champions League is on a national team tournament, but the Champions League final was between Arsenal, an English club, and Barcelona, a Spanish club. Both teams have a lot of players on these rosters, and it feels like Spain and England are really like one of the fiercest women's football rivalries in the world right now. And they find themselves competing against one another for the top trophies. I do think this Euros tournament has showed the growth of the game in other European countries, though. Switzerland came into this tournament surprise heroes. Sweden made another great case for themselves, as they often do at world tournaments. And a lot of people think Italy should be in this final. There are stories coming from all over the continent that get me really excited to see more teams like this play on the world stage again in 2027. So, although this Euros final is not the most surprising end for this tournament, Becky, what do you think it says that some of these teams, mostly England, had to fight really, really hard to get here?
I feel a little bit like a broken record, but I just keep going back to the growth of the game. And if you put investment into these federations and you buff out the scheduling and you buff out the staff and you put these players in professional environments, you get their domestic leagues up and running, you make them more professional, you see this investment return to you. And I think you see that with this Euros has been fantastic, and to qualify to get into the tournament, how difficult it is for these teams. And so to me, it always just goes back and is a testament to the growth of the women's game.
Yeah, I love that. And I mean, there are these other world tournaments going on too at the same time that 2027 is just going to be so much fun. I'm so excited about it. I do want to do some rapid fire predictions about the Euros final on Sunday. Becky, don't think,
Hmm.
just answer. Will there be another controversial ref call?
No, because they're going to have learned from the semifinal.
Will we go to extra time?
No.
Will we see penalty kicks?
I think we'll see an in-game penalty kick. Yes.
Okay, fascinating. How late will Serena make her subs?
Like the 75th to the 80th minute.
Just a well data supported answer.
Exactly.
Who wins and who scores the game winner?
Oh, Spain's going to win, and it's probably going to be Esther that scores it.
Wow, go Bats. Final question. How would the current US women's national team do against the winner?
Oh, come on, we'd win. For sure. I'm not gonna go against the US.
I love that. Well, as we wind down the Euros and start looking to the other tournaments going on around the world, and also thinking about those in the future, I do want to say that we are aware and we are deeply disappointed by the US Olympics and Paralympics decision to ban trans women from competing. We're going to talk more about it on Monday's episode of Good Vibes. But in the meantime, Becky, looking at the WAFCON tournament in Morocco, which has their finals this weekend, where Nigeria will compete for their 10th title against host nation Morocco, and the Copa America Femenina is entering their knockout phase in Ecuador. I was wondering what takeaways you have from this big summer of women's soccer. What have you loved? What do you want more of? And how excited are you to watch all these teams come together in 2027?
There is no doubt that this Euros has been like one for the ages. The Swiss did an amazing job hosting the tournament. The games have been super exciting. Like I have loved all of that. What I don't love is how players in the Copa America Femenina have had to go public in order to shed light on some of the conditions in the tournament. I don't like that a team like Nigeria, who has so consistently shown how good they are by making it to the final of the WAFCON for so many years, for always qualifying for these major tournaments, how these players haven't been paid their wages from World Cups in the past. Like it shows that yes, we have come very far in the women's game, but we have to make sure that we are bringing everyone along with us to enjoy this ride. And it's like we take two steps forward and then we're taking five steps back. And we have to bring everyone along with us. As the ceiling gets higher and higher, the floor needs to get higher and higher as well.
What does that look like? What does it look like for us as former US women's national team players, for current US women's national team players, for the front runners of the growth of women's sports? How do we push for better treatment from FIFA, from the confederations? What are like our action steps?
I mean, I think you and Lindsay Heaps talked about it. An easy comparison is just being like, okay, how did the men run the Copa tournament? Like, what does that look like? What is the staffing? What's the infrastructure, the money, the security, the warm ups, like all of that? What does that look like? Let's make that even. And I think you have associations like FIFPro, which is like the Players Association that represents all the players that play in FIFA. And how do we buff up that association, and how do we use them to help negotiate with FIFA to make these conditions better? They are doing such great work. They have so much that they have to do, and they obviously are representing so many different players with so many different federations that are all dealing with all these different issues. And so it's kind of like, how can we help FIFA Pro? Like, and I also think as current players, as past players, elevating these stories and shedding more light on it and putting pressure either through public pressure, through sponsorships, like let's use this leverage to like help make change and we can bring everyone along with us.
Totally. Well, Becky, I feel like we disagree on a couple of things in this episode today, but I definitely agree with you on all of that. So thank you for sharing that with all of us. Everybody, thank you so much for coming along with us on this journey throughout the Euros. It has been so much fun to experience this tournament alongside all of you, all of the listeners. Becky, you're literally the best. Every time I do a podcast with you, I leave feeling happier than I did before. So thank you. And I think that you are on good vibes next week. So we will talk to you again for Tuesday.
You just can't get rid of me.
I don't want to, except sometimes. Just kidding. All right, everybody. As always, make sure you check our social media for some game day graphics that are going to show you where and when to watch the Euros final, the WAFCON final, and the remaining Copa America games. Immediately after the Euros final, we're going live with New Zealand treasure, Angel City captain, and very good friend of the women's game, Allie Riley. That's on our YouTube channel on Sunday. So come ready with your comments, questions, and opinions on PKs. Thank you all so much for joining us for this one. We'll see you on Sunday.